All right, and then I'm going to do a little bit of a countdown, and then we'll get started.
All right.
All right. So, welcome to Love Over Coffee, Voices Not Heard. This is a podcast and a platform for the marginalized, the silenced, and the abused. And we are live right now on TikTok. We are live on the Real Change page on the book. We are also live on YouTube. We are live in a couple of groups, and we are live on my personal page. So, we should be able to see comments, Angela, as they are coming through on StreamYard. So I want to, of course, welcome in all of our listeners on TikTok and in all of the other places on Real Change and my personal page and YouTube. If you're not in one of those places, go like, love, and share one of those other places because as you know, it is October. It is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and it is important to get out this information to as many people as possible because for some of you, this is not a lived experience. And even if it is a lived experience, it is not exactly the same lived experience as another. And so we are all in the process of a healing journey and an understanding of what it means to truly heal from the trauma of abuse and sometimes from childhood trauma that leads you into not setting boundaries and not expecting respect. Um, my guest tonight is Angela Thomas Smith, and I actually met her on Facebook, and so I don't know her story yet, so I'll be hearing it for the first time as well. So, Angela, welcome in. I always start my podcast with the same question, and that is tell us who you are, tell us where you've been, and tell us where you're going. And of course, only tell us what you feel safe and comfortable sharing.
So, my name is Angela Thomas Smith. I am the youngest of four children. I am from a small town called Levelland, South Carolina, in between Abbeville and Anderson. Um, my journey has not been easy. I am a domestic violence survivor. I was shot point blank range with a sawed off shotgun. Did I think that that would be my journey? No, I did not. Even after going through that, I wanted to work it out. I believed in my vows. I wanted to work it out, and I went back. But I can stand before you today and let you know that I am free. I walked away from it in 2018, and I've not looked back. And I will tell anyone, get out. Don't second guess yourself. Go with your first intuition. When your first intuition tell you to leave, tell you to get out, go. Um, I never thought this would be my journey. I truly never thought this would be my journey. Where I am today, and all the things that people see me doing, and the strength that people see within me now. I had that, and I was that person that said that this would never be me. Because I saw things on TV. I didn't have that in my personal life. My parents were separated, so I didn't see domestic violence. So I didn't know what it looked like. But I can tell you, as I look back over my life and I learn more and more on this journey from different people and hearing different people's story, I can tell you that being shot, that wasn't my first domestic violence incident. I go back to when I was in college, not even realizing that it was domestic violence, because we just classified domestic violence as physical when there's so many other types of domestic violence. Um,
Well, and we have a guest
Emotional.
coming up in a few days. You know, teenage violence in dating, um, as well as college age dating. It's a huge issue that we don't really talk about. We talk so many times. People see dating as they're just having a spat, they're just having an argument. What most people don't realize is that argument is a reflection of someone is trying to
And a
maintain
lot of time we
control
see
of the
stuff and
other.
we think it's cute.
Well, I often say that, I'm a teacher, and, the whole gender role and the differences, and, we think it's really cute when the little boy pulls the little girl's hair to get her attention. And people say, oh, it's because he likes you. And it starts the grooming process culturally and in our society at a very young age. The whole boyfriend and girlfriend stuff when they're 4 and 5 and 6. And we don't realize that we're basically laying out the field for what that looks like later. He gets to say who you sit with at lunch, and he gets to say how much time he'll give you. And those are the things that groom us slowly over time. Um, so let's go back to a little bit of, and again, I only want you to tell us what you feel safe and comfortable, but how old were you when you met this individual, and how long were you with them, Angela?
So the experience that I talk about, it was my husband, and we were together from 2000. We met in 2010. We married in 2012, and in 2014, we had our first domestic violence incident. Um,
What did it look like? The
but that
beginning.
wasn't the first incident that I experienced. As I look back over it, I often
Mhm.
wonder, how did you get there? And
Right.
it was
That's the
something
biggest
that over
question.
time, and it took going through domestic violence and understanding that it was stuff that was building up on the inside. Things even started from when I was a teenager, losing my mom. I lost my mom 12 days after my 16th birthday, and I never really went through the grieving process. And then when you talk about the type of upbringing that I had, I didn't have a father in my home. Um, my father was he had his own issues. He was a drug addict. He was a functioning drug addict. God rest his soul. He was 10 years clean, 9 years clean, before he passed away 2 years ago. So he did get a chance to get it right. We had a chance to rekindle that relationship and build that relationship and talk about those things, those areas where he failed, those areas where I failed. Oftentimes we wonder what role did we play in what happened to us, because we all have a role in it. Sometimes we don't want to own up to our role, but I allowed a lot of the things that happened to me to happen because of, and I don't want nobody to think that nothing that they are experiencing is because of anything that they are doing.
Right. That's such a
This
fine
is
line.
my experience, and this is what I
It's yeah.
went through.
It's a
So there
fine
are a lot of
line.
things that
There's a really bad delay on your end, Angela. I don't know. I don't know if it's your Wi-Fi or the power outage you had earlier, but there's a delay. So,
well, there
if
was a
you
power outage. There was a power outage. Yeah, there was a power outage here. So I don't know if it's it did kick out our internet. Everything was out. So I don't know if it messed up some
okay,
things. Um But that's
There's
what
just
we're
a bit
dealing
of
with
a
right now,
delay.
and that
There's
was
a
the
delay.
reason for my delay.
Mm-hmm. So I'll try to count to 10. So when you finish the sentence, you count to 10, and when I finish the sentence, I'll count to 10, and maybe we can. um, I was just going to say, there's a fine line between taking accountability for what led you to a place so you can heal and owning the abuse. And that's where you have to split those hairs, because we never want the victim to think that something they've done causes the abuse. But when you look back and you're trying to heal from the abuse, often you see patterns of behavior and actions on your part that didn't rise to the occasion of setting boundaries, expecting respect, and seeing those red flags and ignoring them. So when you looked back, losing your mom at 16, having no father in the home, how did that play out?
So with me, there were a lot of you get in this place where you want to fit in. You want to be a part of what is going on around you. So you adapt to what is going on around you. And if you don't know different, then you accept what is going on in the midst. So if you don't know what domestic violence is, then you don't know what to label it. You don't know what to call it. Like, I didn't know what depression was. I didn't know what PTSD was. I didn't know what all these things were. So I didn't know how to put a label on it. I didn't know how to deal with it. So when I was dealing with mood swings, dealing with different things mentally, emotionally, I didn't know. I was looking for love that I wasn't getting from my mother and my father because I didn't have that in my life. So I was trying to fit in. So you get to a place where someone is showing you that attention, someone is loving on you, someone is showering you with everything that you are desiring. Then you begin to overshadow and allow other things to overshadow. And you build up walls. You build up things to cope, things to comfort that will comfort you, things that will make you feel normal because you're missing out on a lot of things. At least that's what you think. But with me, I built up this wall and I didn't want to let people in. So when I met this guy and he was showing me all the love and compassion and empathy and everything in the world, he was everything that I thought I needed. And you don't see those red flags. You don't see those things, and you make excuses, and then you lie. You lie to your family. You hide things. That's what happened because you feel. With me, I was a college educated person. I was a person of a professional statue, and I couldn't allow people to see that side of me because I had this persona that people had to see. So I couldn't let people see that side of me because it showed vulnerability. And that's what a lot of people they don't want people to see that they're vulnerable, that they're weak, that they can't handle this. I was at a point where I thought that I could fix somebody. Who am I? How can I fix somebody? All this was going through my mind. Like, I could really control this person. Like, I could really make this person, not. I don't know what he was dealing with. You know, you don't know what the next person is dealing with. You don't know what their mindset is. But on this journey, after going through what I went through, I never thought that would be me. almost losing my life on May 7th, 2014. I'll never forget that day as long as I live. Not only did I almost lose my leg, I almost lose my life. I will never forget that. But I put myself in a second place because I went back thinking that I could work it out, hearing the phone calls and taking the phone calls and just thinking that, I had power to change somebody. I allowed situations and feeling sorry about situations overpower what was really going on. And it's just like one day I woke up and I realized that I mattered, that I was somebody, and that this was not what God wanted for me. And I had to walk away. So I packed up everything that I could in my vehicle and I walked away. I walked away and I am here today. Um, it hasn't been an easy journey, but I'm able to talk about it. I'm able to tell people that this is not what you want. When someone show you themselves the first time, believe them for who they are. Because if they abuse you one time, it's going to continue. And I come to a place where I realize for myself that people can only do what I allow them to do. If I allow them to keep me in a place of hurt, a place of bondage, a place of whatever, that's where I would be. But I refuse to be in that place. So every day I have to do things to continue to heal myself. So I can't allow hindrance. I can't allow egos. I can't allow attitudes to keep me from moving in love. So I learned how to love myself first. I had to learn how to love myself. So in the process of learning to love myself, I had to let go and allow God to be who he said he would be in my life. But see, I lost focus on a lot of things when my mind was clouded and I was in that dark place. I lost focus of who and why I was placed here on this earth. So I had to overcome oppression, overcome those things that were hindering me, those things that were keeping me in bondage, those things that were keeping me down, those things that were keeping me in a point of disappointment. And I had to learn how to write that vision down and make it plain, because there was a reason why I was placed on this earth, and it was not to be nobody's punching bag. It was not to be abused. It was not to be in a place of downtrodden. It was not for that. He placed me here for greater. And I had to believe that. Not only that, I had to do the things that I know that he purposed me here to do so that I can evolve to the next level eternally, not just in the physical and in the things that I could do here on the earth physically, but it's the eternal thing, those things that I want to go to the next dimension, because this is not our home. So I had to do a lot of soul searching. I had to do a lot of looking at, ma'am.
So what did you do? What kinds of things did you find worked for you? Was it therapy? Was it talking to people? What have you found to be your vehicle?
Well, I had to go to therapy. I saw a psychiatrist, and I had two therapists that I could go and talk to. I joined support groups because on this journey, I learned that I had disorders. I was suffering from depression. I was suffering from PTSD. Not only that, I was an enabler. I had what they call codependency, thinking that I had the power to change somebody when I did not have that power. So I had to do a lot. And I joined support groups. I even went through a 12-step program, just to learn different things, different things to cope and to be around different people that were had experienced this, going through it. I truly believe in sharing your testimony because it helps other people, no matter what it is. Because even though we may have the same test, our journey is not the same. We didn't overcome the
Right.
same. Our methods weren't the same. So there may be something that you can share that may can help me to stay on this journey, because every day it's a struggle. Just because you
Right.
see me doing a lot of the stuff that I do, it does not mean that I'm okay. Some days is not a good day because I have a scar on me that will be on me for the rest of my life. And it will remind me every day, a constant reminder of what I went through. But it's also a constant reminder that I can't give up, that there's other people out there that's going through that, because every 4 seconds somebody is abused. Whether it's physical, mentally, emotionally, financially, spiritually, somebody is abused in some type of way every 4 seconds. And if I can touch
Every
one life,
4 seconds.
I've done what I'm supposed to do. And that's what I want to do. And I will continue to share my story until the good Lord take me home, because it may help somebody.
So
He's given me the ability to share my story. Mm-hmm.
what are some of the projects that you're working on? Because I know I'm interested in one of them. I just need to, wrap my own brain around it. But what kinds of projects are you doing to help bring awareness and basically put your testimony and your message out there?
So I do a lot of writing. I am an author. I am the author of now 69 books, journals, and planners. I started writing in 2016. And I believe in collaborating and bringing people together and allowing people an opportunity to share their stories. I'm also a owner of a magazine called Aspiring Authors Magazine, where I truly believe in bridging the gap and being that platform where people can express. We oftentimes are not given the outlet to express. Everybody want to censor this and censor that. So oftentimes we are not given the opportunity to really express. So also the owner of a podcast network. We created the network in February of this year. Currently, we have 7 hosts from different backgrounds, from different areas of the country. And we just believe that we are the change that we desire to see in this world. And in order for change to come, we have to be that change. So we are that change. So we lead by example. One of our mottos is the L3 movement, something that God dropped in my spirit. I am a true believer that it's nothing that I do is by chance or happenstance, but it's all by the Creator. And it's the L3 movement. It's called Learn, Love, Lead. And I think everything that we do, we should have that spirit of, we can never get in a place where we know everything, that we should be learners. And then we should always move in love, because we have to remember that love covers a multitude of sin. Love is action and love draws. And in everything that we should lead by example. And if we stay students and moving in love, we'll always be a great leader and people will always want to follow us. So what I'm doing right now is I'm working on a poetry book. I am finishing up a 3-book series, which is around, we're dedicated it to Black mental health, bringing awareness to Black mental health, because that is something that just plagues the brown community. And it's something that I advocate for. And it's Black mental health. So the first book was called Finding Forgiveness, because oftentimes we don't want to forgive ourselves. And then we find it hard to forgive others. So we share through poetry, finding forgiveness in book 1. Book 2 was finding hope. And in book 3, we are finding love. And we invite anyone that like poetry, and just advocate for mental health, because mental health is something that is taking the back burner, but it is serious. And you never know what the next person is going through. Just because we appear to be okay does not mean that we're okay. And sometimes it just takes a second to see how somebody is doing. Just that
October
second to
is
say,
breast
how are
cancer.
you? Maybe a second that saves someone's life.
Um, October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. It's Domestic Violence Awareness Month, but it's also Mental Health and Depression Awareness Month. And those those things, you know, people want to say that, some drug is the gateway to other drugs, but really trauma is the gateway to drugs. And trauma um, can lead someone to, as you described, Angela, um, craving that attention, craving that affection, ignoring the red flags. Again, I want to be very careful. It is not to say that you own the abuse someone is doing to you, but when you step away and you step back and you're out of the situation, you can begin to see patterns that may have led you down that journey instead of another journey. And those journeys are not good or bad, they just are the journey. And, I know in my own situation, there was, again, as you described, there was no physical abuse. So in my mind, it wasn't domestic violence. But I was in the situation of a lot of mental and emotional and financial abuse, in addition to other um, facets. But I had no idea. I'm like you. I grew up in, my parents were married for 31 years. I never saw domestic violence. I didn't know what it looked like or sounded like. Um, and I was 50 when I happened upon it, um, quite by accident. But again, when I look back, I realize I've always been a people pleaser. I've always, craved affection. I was molested at 10, and that opened up a door to trauma um, that, again, no one helped me process. We just swept it under the rug and went on. So when you look back at your young child having lost a mom and a dad to addiction, what do we do for children like that, Angela? What do we do with children who are raised in circumstances that are so beyond their control, their understanding, and their ability to process trauma?
Well, I think when we understand that trauma plays a major part in a lot of what we're seeing in society, and when we address those trauma bonds and those things that are causing the trauma, then that's when we can begin to heal. I do think that if I had addressed a lot of the things that I dealt with as a child, as a teenager, because I can't say it was my childhood, it was my teenage years dealing with those
Mm-hmm.
transitioning and just feeling that I did not belong, and that no one was there to, you know, that was a transitioning phase in my life. And just some of the things that I endured, didn't think that I should have had to endure them as a teenager, and sometimes you had to step up and become an adult a lot quicker than you wanted to, because not all the time you had those loving people to be there as second parents. um and that's what we deal with now with a lot in the foster care, and what's going on with the foster care system. But as I look back over my life, I say if we can deal with a lot of the trauma, a lot of the hurt, and if we can get to the root of the problem, um, we can avoid some of this. we can avoid some of these mishaps. You know, we may not be able to stop everything, but we can cut it down. We can lower some of these things because when people realize that they have value and worth, and they have a identity, then it sets them up for a better life. When you can identify with something and you know that you have your own identity, then it sets you up for a better life. I think. Um, but that's what I think. You know, I know
Well,
who I am now. You know,
that's it.
I didn't 10 years ago.
I was thinking, as a school teacher, I went to a conference one time and they told us to think about. So they gave us a paper plate and they gave us some materials and they said, make this into the child you think you have most failed as a teacher. And that was hard because it was someone, in my particular situation, it was someone who didn't fit in, someone who was bullied and ridiculed by so many. And even though some children tried to protect him, it was not possible to protect him all the time. And I realize now that I could have taught things in my classroom that calm the nervous system down. We always teach kids, count to three and say you're sorry. But it's so much more than that. Calming the spirit
Mhm.
and calming the body and and taking a moment to teach, meditation and affirmations. I mean, these are things that I know as a school teacher, these are things I could have done every day. And my children would have soaked it up like a sponge. But we're taught so much about the reading and the writing and the math and getting all of those things done that we forget about the child. We forget about the child who arrives at school with so much more than just their lunchbox and backpack, if they even have that, but also um, that were molested that morning or saw some issue at home or on the bus or something they didn't know how to process and don't have the words to even articulate it. We forget that we could do so much more at the school level. Um, so that's one place I know that I feel like I wish I could have done more. But what could we give to family structures, Angela? Because I know that many family structures have been impacted by racism and oppression and prison, incarceration, violence on the street. So how can we combat some of that from the family structure? How can we give strength behind some of that when you're talking about the foster care system?
Wow. Well, again, it goes back to dealing with trauma because a lot of stuff you this stuff didn't just start happening. It didn't happen overnight.
Oh, that's true.
It's been a process, and it's been going on for years. So, you know, it's going to take a minute. You know, it's going to take a minute because a lot of us, and I'm just talking for a lot of the brown community, you know, a lot of us, we didn't believe in going to therapy. We didn't believe in handling those things that needed to be handled because we had this stigma. What happened in my home, stay in my home, don't be telling my business. And that's what has happened in a lot of cases. So we got to get out of that place, and we got to get out of a lot of these stigmas that's taking place, so that these kids will know that it's okay to tell somebody when somebody's hurting you, when somebody's not doing what they're supposed to do, when somebody is in violation of you. And it's okay to tell somebody, when even if it's not physical, it's mentally, emotional, whatever. If somebody is in violation of anything that go against something that your parents have instilled in you. And we got to go back to having morals, values, sit down, talking to our kids, and letting them know that, hey, I am there, and letting them know right from wrong. Having those talks. When we understand that there are people there for us when something goes wrong, if someone hurts us, then we can talk about it, because hurt people hurt. And we got to get out of this, somebody hurt me, I'm gonna hurt somebody, and carrying this stuff around. We got to be able to want to be healed, want to be whole, want to be the best version of myself that I can be, and moving from that place of wanting a pity party or whatever the case may be. But
well, and
we
we
got to
think
go
about
back to morals.
hurt people, but you know what, Angela? You and I, along with Sweet Corner Girl, thank you, Miss Gina. And for those who are watching and listening, I think we could also start saying more often, healed people heal others. Because if
Exactly.
you take the time to understand your own healing, then you are more likely to share it with another and to teach, because that's the whole goal of the podcast, and in general, each one reach one, teach one, because it is only through a conversation and sharing lived experiences that we can begin to understand where someone else's shoes have walked, and that their shoes are not bigger or better or different. They had shoes, or perhaps no shoes, just like everyone else. And through that journey, we share a journey to ourselves, back to ourselves. I think so many times, as you mentioned, Angela, we look outside ourselves as though the solution is across the street, when really the solution is right here in us. But we don't often see that. And I think sometimes we don't see it because we haven't seen it and we don't even know it. And it's hard to see what you don't see, or what you have not experienced. So I hope that through this conversation and many others, that we can do just that. Hurt people, but healed people heal other people. And the stigma surrounding mental health is a really important one. But I think we also have to be careful, because Gina's experience with the mental health has been, when you get help, you're looked down upon, or it's used against you in a court system, or maybe in your personal life. People say, oh, well, she's been to counseling. And that opens up another whole door. So we've got to get beyond that too, because it goes both ways. We don't want people to go, and then when people go, we see it as something wrong. So it's like, which came first, the chicken or the egg? So I don't know. That's a hard one. Because
Yeah,
I'm
we
in
got to get
counseling.
to a place where we got to stop letting people put us in a box and let
Mm,
people put us in a place. You know, I used to be that person. I thought that, slap some oil on it, say a little prayer, and I would be okay. But that wasn't the case. You know,
right.
I still pray, I still anoint myself, but I had to go lay on somebody's couch. I had to let it out. I had to get it. And I didn't care what people thought, because guess what? I'm a healed, better person now that I can help somebody else. You know, yeah, maybe at first I didn't want to tell everybody. I didn't want to shout it from the mountaintop, but now I know it
Right.
works. I
Right.
know it's a remedy, and I know it can help other people. So guess what? I shout it from the mountaintops because if what works for me, it'll work for somebody else. Because the God that I serve, He don't have a respectable person. And guess what? He didn't place these people here for nothing. He created all of us for a reason and a purpose. We got to figure out what those reasons are and those purposes are so that we can walk in that He's purposed us for. Sometimes we got to go through a bump,
Mm,
whatever it is. We got to go through it
right.
so that we can get to where He's purposed us for, so that we
That
can catch
is
up
the
with that destiny.
truth. That is the truth. Amen. We having church up in here. I want to say, um, you know, these podcasts are hard. They take a lot of mental energy. Again, I want all of you to take this in. I need you to process it. I need for you to release it. Um, you know, if your self care involves leaving tonight and going and sitting in your hot bathtub with the lights off and a candle, then do it. If it involves a cup of coffee, that's probably my thing. Do it. Whatever it takes to bring your spirit back to that easy breathing place. I do want to say tomorrow night, um, while I give Angela a chance to think about some of her final thoughts. We have a guest tomorrow night that is from our journaling community, and I want to make sure that she feels loved on and protected when she comes in tomorrow. Um, we know her, but we may not know her in this capacity. Um, so tomorrow night, our guest is going to be Brianna. We know her as Winter's Breeze, Brianna. And tomorrow night, she's going to share a little bit of her story. And like I said, I want to make sure that she feels loved on and protected. Um, TikTok can be a scary place when you first go live on TikTok. She'll be live on the same platform that Angela is doing right now, but I do want to make sure um, that we know that I'm humbled and honored to be a place where she has decided to share her story. Hey, thanks for the heart me. Um, we're almost at 10,000 likes. I want to take a moment before I give Angela a chance to say her final thoughts and final words, and that is, you know, thank you for showing up tonight. Thank you for the love and the likes and the shares. Um, it all gets us more aware of domestic violence and what that looks like. And it also gives us a chance to think about self love and self care and healing trauma and what that can look like. As Gina is saying, painting her fingernails. That's her self love and self care. Um, so, Angela, do you have any final thoughts before we say good night? And where can we find you? What are all your platforms? Because I know you're out there.
Well, first, I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity to come on and share. Hats off to you. For a second, someone is abused, and it does not have to be that way. I often tell people to walk away, learn to love yourself, and learning to love yourself and putting yourself first, and knowing that you have self worth, knowing that you are worthy and that you have value. is the most important thing. So find your purpose in that you're supposed to be doing on this earth and on this journey. I could be found on most social media platforms. I tell people to go over to Linktree, type in Queen of Collaborations, and you'll be able to find all of the amazing platforms that I'm a part of. You'll be able to catch some of the podcast platforms that I'm a part of. Check out some of my books. Again, I have 69 books, journals, planners, you name it. It's up. They're all available through Amazon and Blurb. I just released a domestic violence 31-day devotional. Me and two other individuals decided to share inside of this devotional. This is the second devotional that we released in bringing awareness to domestic violence. The title is called Bringing Healing in the City and Heals, Reclaiming Our Lives After Domestic Violence. Sometimes you just got to take that journey and say, I am going to live. I am going to have a second chance, and I'm just going to step out there and do those things that I may not have done before this, and some of those things that I wanted to do before I went through this. So I challenge everyone to live again. Know that it's not by circumstance, it's not by happenstance, it's not an accident, it's not a mistake. That you, if you're hearing this, if you're tuned in, know that God has something bigger for you. Something bigger for you. He gave us all a second chance. We survived so that we could share our story, so that we can share our testimony. We overcome by sharing of our testimony. Again, you can find me on Linktree, Queen of Collaborations, and that is all social media platforms: Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram. I am also on U42. I am on YouTube. You name it, I'm on it. Just check me out, Queen of Collaborations. Yeah, I just want to be that change that I desire to see in this world. And I just want to be able to touch one life. And I just want somebody to know that they have purpose. They didn't get
That
dropped
they
out
matter.
of the
They matter.
sky. Thank you again for this
Oh,
amazing
you're
platform.
welcome. I'm so glad to know you through the book. And I also, um, one of your poetry projects is what I'm interested in. Next week, I'll share some of my own poetry. I just didn't know whether your poetry books each have a specific like theme or purpose, or whether it was just a hodgepodge. So that's something we'll talk about offline. Um, but I do a little bit of
Okay.
spoken word and a little bit of poetry writing. So um, thank you, everyone, again for the love and the likes and the shares. Tomorrow night, Brianna Barton, Winter's Breeze Brianna, will be our guest. She will tell us who she is, where she's been, and where she's going. And I hope that you'll come back tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for night number 7 of 31 nights of podcasts for awareness of domestic violence issues, and in honor of Gabby Petito and so many others who may or may not have a voice at this point. So, thank you again. I'm going to go ahead and end the live on TikTok. So, thank you, everyone. I do want to say a quick thanks. Not only to my watchers and my listeners and my likers and my gifters, but I also want to say a special thanks to some of my moderators. They're Angel, Cat Links, Nicole, Pinky Iguana, and Sue. So I want to make sure that I take a moment and say thank you to the moderators who are in here as I multitask. Thank you to everyone who's watching on the Real Change page, and possibly in one of the groups that I have, as well as on YouTube. If you like me on TikTok, go like me on one of the other platforms, because the more likes, the more love, the more attention and comments and things that things get, it it creates an algorithm that pushes it out more and more. So we do what we can, but we certainly cannot do it alone. So thank you all for being out there, and We'll see you tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So take care, everybody, on TikTok. And I may be live later with a little crafting with Miss Angel and whomever else wants to join us, because my mind needs a break, and so does my spirit. So thank you, guys. Take care. Have a great night. Bye. All right. And Angela, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to try to end the stream over here. So again, thank you, Sweet Corner Girl, for watching and listening. Thanks everyone on the Real Change page and in the groups and in 1111 Messages of Hope from Angels. I appreciate all of you being here. Of course, I never delete the podcast, so it's out there. It will be alive and breathing and never deleted. So it will stay on the Real Change page, as well as my personal page and in the groups and on YouTube. So thanks, everyone, and have a great night. Thank you again, Angela. I'm going to go ahead and end the stream.
Thank you.